Fortunately, Ambedkar emerged by writing in English after Mahatma Phule in Marathi as a national intellectual. That is where we could get, we were drowning in the sea of the Brahminic campaign, and Ambedkar came as a support when we were drowning in the sea. And he opened our eyes. No, unless you write in English, unless you speak in English, you cannot defeat these people.
Lights, Camera, Azadi is a show that is on a quest to meet personalities. The personalities who have always challenged the status quo. These people are courageous and confident to speak the truth and are best at it. Though the world may or may not agree with them, they always work for nation building. We want to talk to them and understand their perspective. We want to know their worldview, their thoughts, and what gaps do they see in the society, and most importantly, how to live life fearlessly. My name is Vandit Jain, and I am just a medium to get these stories to you.
Hi everyone. This journey of bringing voices who challenge the status quo has been going on since Feb 20. While I've enjoyed every bit of it, the truth is I haven't made much money out of this effort. Here is what I propose. For an episode that you like, that touches your heart in some manner, you make the single minimum contribution that you can to the show. If you like my proposition, please head on to lightscameraazadi.in/support-lca and make a donation that is convenient to you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Lights Camera Azadi. Sorry for being missing in action for a month now. No excuses, just another mini break. But hey, I'm back again and with some amazing episodes. This episode is like a personal victory to me. Professor Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd is one of the most prominent intellectuals of India. I always wanted to have Professor on my show, but I thought he is way out of my reach. Turns out I was wrong. He was just an email away. Very approachable and very kind. I had a wonderful time with him. In fact, it is a conversation like this that allows me to keep going in the podcasting world. One conversation like this in a few weeks, and I am content for a very long time. While designing this episode, the content itself was a challenge, specifically on what to cover as Professor has such deep knowledge and a rich political thought. We decided to cover two broad aspects in this episode. First is the importance of English, and second is a larger vision Professor has for the Shudra community across the country. We started this episode after understanding Professor's journey and life history, slowly went into the topic of the day. The best part about Professor was even the most profound thought, he put it out very simply for a layperson to understand. I am confident you all will enjoy the episode. Without wasting any time, let us go and meet Professor Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd. 3, 2, 1, Professor Kancha Ilaiah, welcome to Lights Camera Azadi. It is an honor and a privilege to have you on my show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Vandit.
Sir, I can't tell you how great I feel to speak to you because for many months, many of my listeners have been also telling me to get you on the show, and I am so glad that we connected over email and we could actually find some time where we can discuss some important issues. So it's actually I'm feeling very good and happy that you made it to the show.
Thank you.
Professor, we don't know a lot about your early days and journey of what chain of events led to where you are today. Could you talk about how has your life been where you started your journey and how you are have now become one of the most intellectual voice of this country?
Well, my journey is quite interesting. Uh, uh, Anyone who reads my autobiography, called From a Shepherd Boy to an Intellectual, uh, they can easily see where I come from, how I have grown, and how my ideas were shaped. I come from a very a backward village in the underdeveloped forest zones of Telangana region. My village name is known as Papaiahpet, and it is in rural Warangal district. See, I come from a shepherd family background. For generations, my ancestors were sheep and goat herders. And in my family, for two generations, there was female leadership because in most shepherd families, this is equivalent to the Pauls, Bagels in UP, Bihar, then Dhangar in Maharashtra, uh, Kuraba in Karnataka, and Kuruma in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and similar castes are there even in Bengal with the different names.
Ji.
So, to make all these communities understand, I added the word shepherd to my name in English so that the whole world and the shepherd community across the country understand where I come from. So, my ancestors were sheep and goat rearers, and men mostly in this occupation live around forests and keep the sheep folks in the forest zones only. And women run the families from villages, hamlets. So they were not supposed to go to school and educate as per the Brahminic Varnadharma in India. Even kingships were implementing that all over India. The Shudras were not supposed to go to school and educate, and they used to think, my grandmother used to think that if our children go to schools, devil Saraswati will kill them because Saraswati is not goddess of education for them, but she is seen as a devil who kills if they go to a school and get educated. So I come from that kind of a background with first generation single teacher school in Telugu medium. Uh, and since I was said to have been born as per the school record in 1952, maybe I was born earlier or later, but this was the teacher given. So I went to school quite late, maybe in my 10th year or so. And then with reluctance, I was sitting in the classrooms. By then I was with sheep, goat, and we have some cattle also, buffaloes and uh, cows and bulls. So, I used to rebel against the teachers because I didn't like sitting under a four-walled small room and then under the watch of a teacher all the day because I was all around the cattle, fighting with the nature, killing snakes, eating birds, along with my elder brother also. So that's how I came. But as I was growing in education, uh, you know, I began to see the importance of it. Then I studied my middle school in a nearby bigger village, walking back and forth and cooking sometimes there for 3 years. Then I went to Taluka headquarters for my high school. All that was in Telugu medium. And we were cooking there, and then weekend walking and swimming across rivers that were there between the village and the taluka headquarters. Then after my 11th grade, I came to PUC into English medium, and it was a torture. That so learning English, and I thought I should become a doctor. So took biological studies, but my English was so poor. I struggled for 1 year and could hardly get a third class pre-university certificate. Then I thought, this medicine is not possible now. So I joined BA with English literature. Then I developed a taste for European, uh, uh, history and English literature. Started reading Shakespeare, Milton, and the European English literature also introduced Karl Marx to me because it was their part of the syllabus political thought. So I was also political science student in my graduation at Warangal. Then I slowly started picking up English with great difficulty, and then started going for elocution debates and essay writing. But the judges would tell us that, my ideas were strong and good, but my English was poor. So then I used to cook and survive there because financially we were uh, very backward, so a very meager amount of money. Since I was not a Dalit, I couldn't get a seat in social welfare schooling. So I started reading newspapers, Hindu. There was a popular Deccan Chronicle here. Then I got hold of Karl Marx Communist Manifesto, and I started reading that, and then I realized that was the most nearest book for me. Then the all other books I read in Telugu and in the class purpose, the classroom or outside. I was becoming a kind of a reader because I was developing debating and essay writing orientation on my own then. So when I was reading Communist Manifesto, though it was a translation from German when Marx and Engels wrote, but the language was so close to us that feudalism, landlords, capitalists, exploitation. So all that, the landlord exploitation was part of our life. My shepherd families were living under the control of a major landlord in my area, and they had to pay taxes in the form of giving sheep every year. And then the forest guards were attacking the shepherds all the time and taxing them. It was my grandmother and later my mother who were negotiating, fighting, and so on. So I developed a bitter anger against the landlord system, and we being, ignorant, innocent. And meanwhile, something unusual happened to me. My mother suddenly died with tetanus in 1967 when I was in class 9. So we were in deep trouble. She was the family head and a very bold woman fighting men leaders. in village. And when she died, I was the youngest son, and uh, so I had to perform the rituals, holding the funeral funeral pot and so on, and lit the fire and so on. At that time, two priests came to the river bed where we had to bathe and perform the last rituals. So they asked all kinds of things from my father, the Brahmin priest. There were two priests in those days. One is a Brahmin, the other one is a Lingayat, who emerged from the Karnataka tradition, from Basava movement.
Hmm.
So they were not Brahmins, but they were called Lingayats. They had the Shaivite tradition. The other one is a Vaishnavite tradition. So we never knew these gods, and our gods and goddesses were different. We have cattle related god called Birappa, and then village goddess called Puchama. Their whole existence is around cattle, uh, name as leaf and turmeric medicines and so on. So we definitely, sacrifice sheep and chicken and eat full of mutton and then drink toddy, which is available in the village a lot from childhood. So this Brahmin priest asked for a cow from my father, who was actually struggling. We had few cows, no doubt. So he said he will give one after few years because his family is in crisis. So all that he took, and then he stretched his feet and asked us to prostrate. I could have been around 16 or so, 16 years, that's 16. So I said, no, I will not do this because I started becoming rational, and I will not, uh, lay down my head at your feet. So I rebelled. But then the priests, both of them said, no, this is our custom, and a Brahmin is supposed to be a mediator between your mother and heaven, and then so you are rebelling against your mother's heaven seat. I said, whatever it is, I cannot do this. I love my mother, but I cannot uh, sell out my mind and my consciousness. So he instigated the community people all around, and they had to go for drinking and uh, feasting. That was the community culture under the trees near around the stream where we were bathing, and we were supposed to shave our head and all that. So the community was abusing me, and we were also not married by that time, my brother and me. My younger sisters were also married, four of our sisters. So village was also attacking us for not marrying by 16. My brother was maybe about 18 and so on. So I said, nothing doing. Let the whole village and caste kill me, but I am not going to prostrate. So from there, my rebellion against Brahmanism started. And I stopped going to temples. I so then I started seeing the comparative uh, knowledge base between the European books and the Indian books. All the Indian books were Brahmins written. There was nothing about production life. There was nothing about cattle. There was nothing about tilling. There was nothing about the people's culture. It was all about a few caste culture, mostly kings and Brahmin rishis, and they were writing books from books. They were writing books on Mahabharata, or Ramayana, or Vedas, but never on people. Whereas if the European books were on people's life, on nature, on production, on cattle, on I realized that there is something completely negative in the Brahmin literature and Brahmin culture. So that's how I grew, and then I came to my MA Political Science in 1974 to Osmania University. And at that time, there was a big radical left movement all over Telugu region and all over country, Naxalbari in Bengal. So I became their sympathizer because the landlords were with the ABVP on the campus, and they were never around education. They were only celebrating Ganpati festival and writing slogans on Bharat Mata. And they were not conducting seminars around literature, around issues of poverty and equality idea, democracy. Whereas the left student organization, I became a sympathizer and a sort of, uh, go with the kind of organizational called Progressive Students Union, Progressive Democratic Progressive Students Union. So PDSU, Progressive Democratic Students. It was broadly supporting the Naxalite politics. So I started reading a lot of Marx and some literature written by Indian Marxists. Like there was a writer called Tharmila Nagireddy who wrote a book called India Mortgaged. So so all that I grew in that environment. Then emergency, then we opposed emergency very seriously. A lot of people I know, young students, were killed in encounters. So that's how I grew. Then, when the caste question came, the left were also with the upper caste. So in 1990, when the Mandal movement came, I, as a rural uh, Shudra shepherd, young lecturer, I became a lecturer. I did my PhD on Gautam Buddha's political thought, my M.Phil on land reforms in Andhra Pradesh. Then I studied a lot on ancient India. And then, after Mandal, after BJP's campaigns and the left Brahmins' approach to reservation and Congress approach to reservation, after seeing all that, I wrote uh, this book. I think you know why I'm not a Hindu. So thereafter, my journey into writing started. So I, meanwhile, completed my PhD thesis. It is a well-known book on political thought of Gautam Buddha now. Many universities teach it, including in China and in many other countries. It's called God as Political Philosopher, Buddha's Challenge to Brahmanism. So there I looked at the Vedic thought, the uh, Kautilian Manu thought, and Buddha's thought in comparison, and also the Western thought, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and Buddha. How do they compare? I found Buddha was far more democratic, far more institutional builder, than any one of the thinkers by 6th century BCE. And Indian communists did not recognize him because of their Brahmin control, whether it is P.C. Joshi or M.N. Roy or Nambudripad or till now Sitaram Yechuri or the right wing from Savarkar to Golwalkar to present Mohan Bhagwat. They don't give any credit to Gautam Buddha's political philosophy and his idea. And within the Congress, there was hardly any thinker who focused around Buddha. It was only Ambedkar again as a parallel thinker to Gandhi who did some serious study on Buddha. I carried from there and then this book is well known. Then I wrote Buffalo Nationalism as against Cow Nationalism. And then I wrote a novel called Untouchable God. Uh, then I wrote this book which became very controversial. I was attacked. The book was taken to Supreme Court for banning all the Baniya communities of two Telugu region. It's called Post Hindu India, which is a book about each caste, science, and spirituality and philosophy, and how the Brahmins and Baniyas all through went against production. And so that may, if it is not resolved properly, how it may lead to a civil war at some stage in Indian history. So now I edited this book on the Shudras, Vision for a New Path. And I want to write some more on the Shudra question and see where my movement goes. And in this whole thing, I discovered that unless all Indians become English speaking people, it is now impossible to overthrow Brahmanism and the hegemony of Brahmins, Banyas, Kayasthas, Khatris, and Kshatriyas in the present day India, because they all are English educated in the
Yeah.
private sector. So that is where my struggle for English started while writing. I proposed the thesis in Why I'm Not a Hindu, and later on I wrote series on that. And now two governments have introduced English medium where I campaigned. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes, sir. I You have given very interesting threads and thoughts and a lot of questions there. But let's first talk about the fight that you're fighting for English education. And I think AP and Telangana government have introduced English in the curriculum, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
and with one subject compulsory, that is Telugu.
Yes.
So how do you look at this? Do you welcome this change, and how do you think why does the Shudra community needs to be more English educated, and how do you look at the national education policy also, if you could throw some light
Well,
there?
one thing, for the last 30 years, both in Telugu and English, I have been writing. I've been writing in very popular Telugu papers like, Udayam at one stage, Varta, now Sakshi, and then Indian Express, Hindu and Deccan Chronicle and Asian Age. It's in several even Times of India and so on. My argument was in 1947, when we adopted democracy, Nehru as first prime minister, the ruling elite adopted two kinds of education policy at that time. English for uh, those who were already educated and regional languages for those who were never educated. Now, there was a debate in the Constituent Assembly and there was vote also. Uh, and it was Ambedkar's proposal that English should be made administrative national language. Nehru was in between, neither this side nor that side. That proposal was put for vote. Uh, Hindi as national language was proposed by many North Indian, and the South Indians were in a dilemma because there is no one such overarching language in South India. Uh, so the issue was put to vote in the Constituent Assembly, and first day English and Hindi got equal votes. So Rajendra Prasad was in the chair, I think. Then to resolve the issue, it was postponed and second meeting took place. And in the second meeting, with the Rajendra Prasad vote, Hindi as national language got one vote majority. So what Nehru did was he allowed the English teaching in the schools in the private sector. To start with, the Christian missionaries were there. And by then, in the whole of Indian communities, the most educated were Brahmins, then Kayasthas of North India, Khatris of Western India, and Kshatriyas were not so English Western educated, and Banyas were because of Gandhi and several others. And apart from that, there were some Parsis and others were there who went to England and studied. But the entire Shudra communities were never foreign educated during freedom struggle, except Sardar Patel, who went to England and lived there for just 1 year and came back with a law degree. So the regional, even the princely state rulers, who were Shudras in many areas, their children also did not go to England and study English. So what Nehru did was the state governments must adopt regional language as school education. Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi and so on. But Hindi was imposed as one more additional subject. English they can teach as they move upwards. There was no definite rule. But the college education was put only in English. Now that is where the Shudra, Dalit, OBCs, Adivasis really suffered. And ultimately, the college education went to English medium educated, 5 communities, and English medium educated, school educated people became the real rulers. Now, now the question is, BJP is saying in the new education policy that up to 10th, up to 8th, you have to teach in the regional language. Now, but this same condition they are not putting to the private schools. And Congress continued that policy. BJP wants the same policy as new education policy, which was also in Rajiv Gandhi's education policy. But by now, by the time of BJP rule, more private English medium schools of global standard have come. The same industrialists who are supporting BJP are establishing private English medium schools and universities. Your Ashoka, Amel, and your Wipro, and all companies have their schools, colleges only in English medium. So, unless the governments in the regional languages shift their medium of education into English, there is no way that the SC, ST, OBCs and other Shudras, even Jat, Gujar, Patel, Marathas, cannot become matching intellectuals in the country, matching rulers. So therefore I started this campaign, but a lot of opposition from those who were educating their children in English medium only was coming. For example, in Karnataka, you know, there were a lot of foreign educated Brahmin intellectuals. They were all saying that uh, government schools must teach only Kannada. Even in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, North India, there is no question of debate at all. Though my friend Chandraban started some kind of a initiative by putting English goddess statue. After that, he ceased to be in the writing domain and public domain. So regional parties like Mulayam Singh, Lalu Prasad were also pro-Hindi walas because of Lohiya and socialism. So now Kejriwal has initiated improved English education in Delhi. So and focusing around school educational development, school infrastructure. In Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, because of my work and lot of debates, we had rural meetings. There were Brahmin intellectuals, even the left and radical left intellectuals who were my friends were opposing me, writing in the papers. But people were convinced that what I was saying was right. Without English medium education, the rural children will not get upcountry jobs and they can't go abroad. Because in South Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, America and Canada, Australia became central for last 20 years. Migration for jobs. So the rural children were finding it very difficult. Again, the same people were going abroad. Same people were becoming civil servants. Same people are professors in IITs, IIMs. They were discriminating our children in the reserved categories because of English, lack of English. So they were committing suicide. All this, so Andhra people put that demand before Jagan Mohan Reddy when he was doing Padayatra in 2015, 16, 17 and 18. So he promised them that once he comes to power, he will make government schools English medium. So he promised them. Then in 2019 election, he put the issue in the manifesto. Nobody else has so far put that we will make government schools English medium in the manifesto, but Jagan Mohan Reddy put it. And I wrote immediately series of Telugu articles and English articles and so on that he will win hands down. Every mother will prefer. So he came to power. He started English medium syllabus implementation, but opposition came from the present Vice President Venkaiah Naidu. He comes from there. The present Chief Justice Ramana, and the whole range of Telugu Desam. They had meetings and they accused him of destroying Telugu culture, Telugu civilization, and he was accused to be anti-Telugu and so on. But he said, before you attack me, you tell us where your children studied. Whether Venkaiah Naidu sent his children to Telugu medium schools, or Ramana sent his children to Telugu medium schools, or Chandrababu Naidu sent, or his party members. So he said he also, joined my campaign that all these Telugu regional language, mother tongue, sentimental wallas are putting their children in private English medium schools. So there is a diabolical conspiracy in this. The earlier conspiracy was Sanskrit was a god's language, it was a priest's language. Shudras and Dalits and Adivasis should not study it. But that is the greatest language of India. We should not study. Now, English is a colonial language and we should not study, but they will study. So this was true of all left liberal intellectuals. Bengal intellectuals have went with that. All Bengali studied in English medium, left intellectuals, they went abroad, but left Shudras, Bengal Shudras and Dalits and Adivasis were forced to study in Bengali medium. So I understood this dangerous Brahmanism in all schools of thought. Congress, let's say for example Chidambaram or Jairam Ramesh or Shashi Tharoor, they don't ask for English medium in government schools. But they will go and study in Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge. Even Rahul Gandhi studied in
Cambridge.
Cambridge. So they don't want English medium in government schools for all children. And BJP, there, Deen Dayal Upadhyaya studied in English medium. This man Advani studied in English medium. Golwalkar studied in English medium, and Savarkar studied in English medium. But they don't want English medium. That is colonial. That is British. That is imperialist. They want English. Hindi. For whom? They don't condition Ambani, Adani, Vedanta Group, or Amity School Group or Ashoka University. They want now kill JNU also, Delhi University, IITs. They want Hindi teaching there. But can they say that to Ashoka University, to Amity, to all private universities? They are giving freedom, establishing, asking foreigners to come and invest in education. Prime Minister is asking that. But they want government schools to be in Hindi across the country. Tamil Nadu rejected. Now Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have gone for complete English medium and they won the battle in the court. Andhra Pradesh High Court said if majority parents wants English medium, there is no choice. Now Telangana government reluctantly, because KCR I was opposing him for destroying education all these years. He comes from a Telugu literature background. So, but now the people in Telangana want English medium because of the influence of Andhra and my consistent, along with me, there are a number of youth now. Osmania University, now we made every October 5th as Indian English Day celebration day. Because that was the day in 1817, William Carey and Raja Rammohn Rai have started an English medium school in Kolkata. They were only Brahmin children in the beginning. But 200 years of English education for elite and Christian schools. They were attacking Christianity, BJP for example, RSS, they were attacking Christian schools, but their children are being sent only to top Christian schools. You go and take a survey of Saint Stephen's, Saint Xavier, and all these Saint top colleges. How many RSS BJP leader children will be studying there? How many Congress leaders children will be studying there? Uh, now Kejriwal, since he studied in English medium and his children are in English medium, he started some improving English medium in Delhi. Now that will come into Punjab now. Punjab people voted for Kejriwal for three reasons: improvement of school education, improvement of hospital education, and water supply and electricity supply for the poor, which Congress and BJP were not doing. So now it is catching up, and the whole country must discuss that nationalism has nothing to do with language. We can be English speaking nation after 50, 60 years completely with a rural regional languages surviving in the regional markets. But like Australia is an independent nation with English, America is an independent nation, Britain is an independent nation, Canada is an independent. India will become an independent nation with English as national language. That is my goal.
That's very inspiring, Professor. And also, this question that why does the burden of carrying forward cultural heritage often comes on the shoulders of the marginalized section?
Yeah. No, no. The idea is that you create a sentiment around their life. Uh, like you create uh, a mandir sentiment as against a masjid sentiment. After all, mandirs are ancient Indian mandirs, no doubt. But you create a sentiment. But you don't hang around it as a conservative. Whereas the poor mass will get around the sentiment. Take, for example, how Brahmanism has succeeded in constructing sentiments and controlling the Shudras, Dalits, and Adivasis. You take one example. Ever since BJP, RSS, Vishwa Hindu Parishad started Ram Janmabhoomi movement, their mobilization base is Shudras, muscle poverty.
Absolutely. Hmm.
But tomorrow the Ram temple is coming, a Shudra will not be allowed there to become a priest.
Yeah.
Now, why do the Shudras accept this? They are conditioned like that. See, you are a Shudra and you can do agriculture, you can do production, but you can't become philosopher. You can't read the spiritual. If you think that all Hindus are equal in RSS BJP ideology, you open up the spiritual schools for all Hindus and let there be a graduation to become priest or something. But you don't allow the same Jats, the same Kurmis of UP, the same Yadavas of UP. Sri Krishna temple is a Yadav Krishna temple. Yadavs cannot become priests there. Now they don't ask. Akhilesh won't demand this. Mulayam Singh never demanded. Lalu Prasad never. If they raise this issue, the whole debate of spiritual democracy, equality will come. Similarly, language. Why you study in English medium and you don't want to give all children of your nation the same medium? And why that destroys the national culture and civilization if it does not destroy your culture and civilization? So this is a myth. Sanskrit you should not learn. And the myth has gone to such an extent during the Mughal period and slightly earlier. For almost 7 to 800 years during the Muslim rule, Persian language was the administrative language. Who
Yeah.
learnt it? Brahmins learned Persian,
Brahmins.
Ayastas learned Persian, Banyas learned Persian, Khatris learned Persian in Western India, and no Shudra learned Persian. So during the Muslim rule, again the same elite. The top Muslim feudals and normal Muslims, lower caste Muslims were using Urdu as language. But Urdu was not the ruling language till 1853, when English was adopted as ruling language by the British. Now, from 1850 to now, English is there for 200 years in India. They don't accept it as Indian language. Now, the masses Shudra intellectuals are not there in the country. Sardar Patel was supposed to be a Shudra leader, but he did not write anything. He was not an intellectual. He was only leader.
An
Whereas Gandhi was
administrator.
an intellectual, Nehru was an intellectual, and Savarkar was an intellectual, Golwalkar was an intellectual. No Shudra was an intellectual. Fortunately, Ambedkar emerged by writing in English after Mahatma Phule in Marathi as a national intellectual. That is where we could get, we were drowning in the sea of the Brahminic campaign, and Ambedkar came as a support when we were drowning in the sea. And he opened our eyes. No, unless you write in English, unless you speak in English, you cannot defeat these people. But we are not defeating and then sending them to labor camps. But if our people, if the Shudras, a Patel cannot become a ruler in Delhi now. Narendra Modi could become because he has no Shudra background. He came from a business, a Banya community kind of background, and industrialists are fully supporting him. Amit Shah is with him. Therefore, he can rule. But if a Patel rules like that, or a Maratha, or a Reddy or Kamma as prime minister, they won't get all the support that Modi and Amit Shah are getting. Because the Banya industrialism has become a global controlling structure. Top 40 industries, top 40 industries are in the Banya and Marwadi and Jain hands. So when they are supporting, automatically they will win elections, and they will their media is there, everything there. Suppose if a Reddy becomes there tomorrow, he can't run Delhi now. So either Brahmins from Congress have to run, or Banyas, Kayastas, Khatris from RSS and other backgrounds. Now this needs to be changed. The whole mass should become English educated. That is the overall idea. Now Telangana reluctantly accepted because there is a demand for that, and votes will come around English medium in government schools.
Hmm.
So what Jagan has done is, as the first time, all state governments must start this. Jagan has combined three major reforms in education. One, English medium, in order to gradually pick up the teacher resource base and the student village level catching up. All school books are being printed. English in one side of the page, Telugu in another side, the same textbook. It is called mirror image book. So teachers can read the English in the classroom. Students also read. If they don't understand, they can look at the Telugu version. All textbooks. Now Telangana is also doing the same. Second welfare dose, he put it, is there is a scheme called Mother's Lap, Amma Odi. So under that scheme, he is giving to every government school going mother 15,000 rupees per year for their good dress, food, creating an environment within the house for the child to sit and read and spend on this 15,000 on the child's welfare at home. Now, then he adopted a program called School Infrastructure Yesterday and Today. Then he started rebuilding all the schools with massive investment with an equal infrastructural standard of the private schools. This is called in Telugu Nadu Nedu, schools yesterday and today. And now the same program Telangana government adopted with their own name called Manavuru Manabadi, uh, our village, our school, Amara Gaon, Amara school. So they are now next 3 years spending about 7,500 crores on infrastructure, along with several other residential schools that are already there. For OBCs, for Dalits, for minorities, for Adivasis, we have residential schools. They are all English medium, both in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So this reform is going to change Andhra and Telangana in a very radical way in the next 20 years. And my proposal is that as of now, our high schools in the villages function only from LKG, which is Anganwadi is converted into LKG now, attached to the primary school, LKG to 10. But I am saying every high school should be converted into 12th grade school with NCRT kind of syllabus. There, what happens is every girl in this village will complete 12th grade within their village so that there cannot be female dropouts. Because if a girl has to go from village to taluka at part of her 11th and 12th grade, many are not sending them. The poor cannot afford, and their security is a problem. The rape culture that is available in India. So all this. So if these are in the villages, villages still are a secure, and they live with their parents, suffer with them, enjoy with them, learn with how to work in the field. So we are also campaigning for teaching dignity of labor in the schools. So,
Yes.
so my theory is that children should live with their parents, see parental good and bad, deaths and festivals. They should participate. At the same time, whenever they don't have school and all that, they should also be part of the work culture, harvesting, cutting, and seeding, and looking at the crops in the villages. So, what I call teaching dignity of labor. In the new education policy, they are saying that from sixth onward, children should be taught something about agriculture and practice. But what I am saying is not that. It is much better model than China I am talking about. Every school book should have a lesson on dignity of labor. A lesson can be on home sweeping or dishwashing or cloth washing or tilling the land or cutting the crop or uh, taking care of the cattle. See, for example, RSS, BJP people are saying cow is a gomata. Okay. But how many Brahmin children, Kayastha children, Khatri children, Banya children are with the cows? How many of
Absolutely.
them are grazing them? So you can't develop a theory for an animal which is not yours. That is a Shudra animal in the fields. They look after it. Their children are not going to English medium school. So I am saying there should be a regular teaching lesson in every class on dignity of labor. And I have written a book for that called Turning the Pot, Tilling the Land, Dignity of Labor in Our Times. That was published by Navayana. You can see with illustrations and on that on Amazon. So this there is a resistance to teach dignity of labor by all Brahmins, Banyas, Kayasthas, Khatris in the schools because their historical evolution is around book reading but not labor. Their children may be introduced to Sanskrit, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Even Amartya Sen is saying his childhood is trained in Sanskrit reading and mathematics learning. Then what kind of Indian are you if you don't have an exposure to agriculture in the childhood? What is your Sanskrit learning greatness? I don't know what Sanskrit was, but I was a shepherd boy in my life. I was along with the sheep. I was doing a more nationalist work than reading your Sanskrit. I was producing as a child. I was learning delivery of sheep as my father and my brother were doing that as midwives. And I did that when in my 12th and 13th year when a sheep was delivering with pain. So how can Amartya Sen's Sanskrit or Sarvepalli Radhakrishna's Sanskrit learning in the Brahmin house or Golwalkar's or Savarkar or Nehru learning in Brahmin house or Gandhi learning in a Banya house becomes nationalism? So agriculture doing is a better nationalist work and that should come into the book. Your books cannot be only on earlier Sanskrit books again. If that happens, India can never develop, I'll tell you. We will beg science from other countries for 100 more years. But what I'm saying, teach dignity of labor and teach agrarian science in the school. What is a tilling science? What is a, manure making science in the village? What is foresting in the village? You teach our children that. What is pot making? What is iron smithing? These are all unknown engineers. You see my post to Hindu India. And for telling this, the RSS people call me anti-national. I am asking you must work around your schools that children, all caste children should learn what is pot making, what is shoe making, what is how was the Brahmin writers were great people who did not write on leather scrolls, whereas Socrates, Plato, Aristotle wrote on leather scrolls. Israelites wrote on leather scrolls in 10th century BCE, and Chinese wrote on leather scrolls. In India, Brahmin made leather untouchable, and they wrote on talapatras. How can you write a book on palm leaf? Is that science? Writing on leather scrolls is a durable writing. And they wrote on talapatras, and with leather making untouchable, you made leather untouchable and leather workers untouchable. That's how untouchability started.
Yeah.
So, how can RSS people, BJP people call me anti national when I am saying teach your children how to look after cattle also in the classroom, or how to till the land, how to make pot, how to So, see, the greatest civilization of the world was the Harappan civilization, where canal
Yeah.
digging, brick making, pot making was already started. Who made that? Were there Brahmins at that time? No. The Aryan Brahmin migration took place in 1500 BCE, but Harappan city was built in 3000 BCE. It was the present Shudras, their ancestors, present Dalits, their ancestors, present Adivasis, their ancestors. They built the technology. So you mean to say that only Veda writers, Ramayana Mahabharata writers are those who, and you never allowed that us to read. Even the Reddy, Kamma, Jat, Gujar, Patel, Maratha, they were not allowed to read. Why are they not rebelling against this culture? So they have killed the very mind of rebel. Once the mind of rebel is destroyed, they became slaves, mental slaves. And I started the rebellion of Shudras after Mahatma Phule at the All India level. Periyar was there, but he was in a corner in the Tamil with a great reform. And Savitribai Phule started that we must teach only in English to our boys and girls slogan. So therefore my slogan is read, write and fight. Ambedkar said educate, agitate and organize. Educate, organize and agitate. But that was at a time when illiteracy was so huge. But now I am saying read, write, and fight. You have to read about your village, your cattle economy, your Shudra culture is greatest culture in the world. It was greater than the Israeli culture, greater than the Greek culture, because we built ships. So you don't recognize my production, my land, my sheep, my goat, and you call yourself nationalist and you call me anti-national. That is the reason why I wrote in my autobiography that if you want to kill me, kill me. My body will go to my village and it will be buried in. My brother has given some land for my dead body and it will be buried there. I will be resurrecting from there. Don't accuse me as anti-national or Christian agent. So if your children learn English, you are not Christian agent. Was was not Savarkar a Christian agent then? Was not Deen Dayal a Christian agent? Was not Advani a Christian agent? Okay, uh, Modi did not study in English medium Christian school. Amit Shah did not study. I don't know Mohan Bhagavat where he is. But neither Congress people understand us, nor so they have Brahmanism as their direction. Why should we keep quiet? Okay, we don't have the strength to fight their parties, their wealth, their temple organization. But now I have a pen in my hand. I will write till my last day in English and convert this country into an English nation at least within next 100 years. I will not die with my death, with my physical death. I will remain with my spirit of word, spirit of letter. And that's how I learned my English under the tree, not in the Christian school, not in Catholic school. And I will convert this nation into a globally richest nation with English as its mother tongue. That is my goal. And I'm happy that the two Telugu states where I live accepted this idea, though people forced them. People were sending, labor was sending their children to English medium schools in autos 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers, bloody useless private schools. And here are government schools paying, starting with a government teacher, 50,000 salaries. Private schools pay only 18 per month. And their children study there. School teachers send their children to government school teachers send their children to private schools. They don't teach in government schools. You take state money, you take better money, you retire with 1,25,000 today. Private school teacher doesn't have that. Even the best of the Doon school doesn't have a pension. And the Catholic Saint Joseph, Saint Mary, or Saint Anne's, they don't give pension to their teachers. You take pension from government money, whether it is uh, TRS government, Telugu Desam government, BJP government, Congress government. Teachers must be made to teach in English better than private schools because they are paid better than private schools.
Absolutely. Very well said, Professor. And Professor, before I ask a lot of more questions because I have a lot many questions. I had one technical question. If you could just help me answer it, that you have constantly emphasized on the word Shudra, and in the modern day we have seen the usage of the word Bahujan more. So, what is the technical difference between the two?
No, see, the word Shudra is most ancient category word along with Brahmin, uh, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, as they were divided into four varnas in Rig Veda.
Yes.
So the word Shudra was used to denominate and characterize the cattle rearing masses, the agrarian people, by the time who were there in India by the time the Aryan migration took place. So when the Rigveda text was written, they have divided the migrant Aryans into three categories. Brahmins as a priestly group, Kshatriyas as the politically ruling group, Vaishyas as semi-agriculture, semi-business group, mainly supervising of agriculture. The Shudras as a virtual slave group because they were defeated in the war and so on. Now, who constitute Shudras? The whole Shudra word today is applicable to all those who are not Brahmin, who are not Banya, who are not Kayastha, who are not Khatri, who are not Kshatriya. In North India, in South India, there were Kshatriyas here. So, all of them were Shudras, and the only group outside them was the Adivasis in the forests, people who did not come to plain till the kingdoms became. Now, within the Shudras, as time passed on, division of labor took place. Uh, the tillers of the land were called by one name. The cattle grazers were called by another name. For example, shepherds and dangers and so on. Potters were called in one name. Smiths were called in one name. Fishers were called. So, based on occupations, Shudra communities were divided into further categories. So, when we call Shudra now, we are including all those communities which do not have a Chenev culture for men, sacred thread. So that means Jats, Gujars, Patels, Marathas, Kamas, Reddys, in South India, Nayars, Lingayas. In Bengal, Uh, there is a top community called Mahishyas, from there down to fishing communities. All of them are Shudra. Now, over a period of time, with leather becoming untouchable, from Shudras, a section were rendered untouchable. And then there is Adivasi outside their fold in the forests and new settlers. Now, Shudras are the historical category, former slaves, but the new definition that we are giving is the productive communities, those who developed Indian agrarian science, technology, engineering, which have now come into written textuality in India. All of them are Shudras. So, broadly speaking, Dalits are part of the Shudra. Now, what is Bahujan? Bahujan is a word that was used by Gautam Buddha first.
Yeah.
Because when Buddha was alive, there was a huge ideological debate between the Brahmin saints and scholars of that time and the Buddhists. The Buddhist camp was led by Buddha, Ananda, Maudgalayana, and few others. Upali was a barber. So these four were the main leaders in Buddhist camp. Buddha was the top uh, teacher. So when Brahmins were giving a slogan in those days, that Brahmins defined themselves as God, Brahma. They took
Yeah.
this name from the original Aryan god called Brahma, and those who worship and do the priesthood work are called Brahmins. So they gave a slogan, Brahmin Hitaya, Brahmin Sukhaya. So Brahmin Hita and Brahmin Sukh means all Hita, all Sukha. So everybody will be happy if the Brahmins are happy. Everybody will be happy if Brahmins are having enough food and good life. So what Buddha said was, no, this is an injustice. You're talking about a human community projecting it as into divinity. Claim them yourself as Bhudeva, which is wrong. There cannot be any God at all. He didn't agree with the God idea. So he
Yeah.
said a society will be good if there is Bahujan Hitaya, Bahujan Sukhaya. Now, what is this Bahujani mean? Bahujani meant majority.
Maximum people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maximum number of people. Now, this is exactly what there is an English political philosopher called Bentham who said greatest happiness of greatest number. So when we define welfare state, he said, what is a welfare state? A welfare state is greatest happiness of greatest number. But what Brahman defined is Brahmin happiness is all happiness,
Universal happiness. Yeah.
universal happiness. So Buddha rebutted it and said Bahujan Hitaya, Bahujan Sukhaya. Now when Phule reused it in modern times, he said Bahujans are those who are doing agriculture, Shudras and Ati Shudras, he said.
Hmm.
Shudras are, Marathas, Kumbis, and Ati Shudras are Mahars and Matangs and all of that. So he didn't talk about Adivasis and there was no minority issue in that. Even now I don't include in the idea of Bahujan minorities, Muslims and Christians. So he said Bahujan is Shudra and Atishudra. Now, when Kanshiram reused it as Bahujan as a political concept, majority as against the Brahmin, Banya, Kayastha, Khatri parties. He defined Congress as that, he defined BJP that. So he said all Shudras, all Dalits, and all Adivasis, including minorities, will become Bahujan. But this concept of Bahujan is very fluid. If you are talking about majority, the same concept of Bahujan, Mayawati in 2012 combined Brahmins and Dalits and became Bahujan. Whoever gives you majority, they, irrespective of their historical sourcing. So what I defined in why I am not a Hindu was Dalit Bahujan means suppressed, oppressed, and controlled majority. Now, thereby, I included more or less like Phule, Shudras, OBCs, and Adivasis. I did not include minorities because they have a different global religious civilization, whereas we don't have global religious connectivity and civilization. Muslims have 56 countries relationships. Christians have 130 countries. What do we have? The Shudras, the Dalits, the Adivasis, we are here only. And we have to fight with the Brahmin and what we call Dvijas. And then establish equality here. So Bahujan does not represent production, whereas the idea of Shudras represents production and civilization. So this Shudra civilization, Harappan civilization was a Shudra civilization. Harappa was a name of a man, a Karnataka kind of Happa. He was perhaps could have been a cattle rearer. So Appa names are there in South India a lot. Veerappa, Yellappa, Mallappa. So Harappa was like that. And it was put to a village there, and then village was in between the Harappa. So what I'm saying is now I'm trying to redefine the whole concept of Shudra as a representative civilization builders with production, science, engineering as their civilizational heritage. There was no literacy among them earlier, now it should come. Now they should prefer only English education. And Shudra civilization is Indian civilization. Indian civilization is not Brahmin civilization. I completely disagree with that. Brahmin civilization is no Indian civilization. It is a small group civilization. Even all their books don't represent India. You carefully read Vedas or Ramayana, Mahabharata. Shudra life does not exist there. Shudras don't figure it out. Only Brahmins as rishis, Kshatriyas as rulers figure there. So how does it become Indian reflective text? No. We don't agree with that idea. So if RSS BJP want to teach only Sanskrit books as Indian civilization, that is absolutely wrong. There is no production. Who built pot? Who built iron ore mechanisms? Who built our vessel making science? Who built our brick making science? Where is a book on that? How many Brahmins participated in that? How many Vaishyas are participating in that? We will take the statistics now. That is it.
Hmm. And important question, Professor, that how do you look at the oppressed section in the minority groups like Muslims and Christians, the the Dalits converted who into Christianity who still face discrimination, or the Pasmanda Muslims who are facing, though they are in the minority religion, but they are still sort of marginalized and still, facing the brutality of the caste system. But how do you look at them? Do you think there is a role, they have a role or place in your framework?
No, even they have some existing advantages within their religion now. They have some disadvantages. The lower caste who got converted into Islam and Christianity, there is a spiritual equality there. They can read their Quran, but only in Arabic. That is a old value. Uh, if Indian Islam changes into English reading, even in Masjid, no one language formula there, then the lower caste Muslims will become more equal, and the women have to get total equality in Islam. Christianity also, there is a more English thing, more egalitarianism there. At one time there was a caste practice, now it is dying, but the class factor is a very serious factor. That there are feudal Muslims, there are uh, the very poor Muslims, and so on. And in Christianity, the caste practice and the division between Catholics and the Protestants is a very uh, fundamental division there. And Indian democracy is giving them a scope to become egalitarian by reforming themselves within the global religions, because they will have to go towards more and more spiritual democracy. See, if Indian Muslims define their God only Allah, only as a man, I don't agree. Allah combines man and woman. Christians also should understand there are number of new Bibles coming in. There is a very good Bible called Justice Bible, which says that the idea God does not mean only man. It is man and woman together. Therefore, they were equally created as Adam and Eve. And so a woman can be a bishop, a woman can be a pastor. So this idea has to catch up there. In Hinduism, the problem is more deeper. There is no internal spiritual debate in Hindu religion. Even RSS is not initiating. This is where the Shudras and Dalits, those who are working with BJP RSS, they will have to think about what I'm saying. I'm saying in their future generational interest. If you think that you are Hindu nationalist, no problem. Religion plays a very important role in any nationalism. But you should have spiritual democratic equality in that. Tomorrow in Ram temple or Tirupati temple or uh, you know any Vaishnav Devi or any temple, all castes should have the right to priesthood. Men and women should have the right to priesthood. And they should come out of the Sanskrit language problem. Muslims should come out of Arabic problem, because Arab is not spoken language in kitchen. It is in other countries, but here it is division is there. It is not, so long as it is not a kitchen language, market language, and then it restricts the idea of God to a very elite people. So Sanskrit has to die. There is no way. And if Hindus adopt English as prayer language, Muslims adopt Christian as prayer language, or Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Marathi. Christians have adopted that, no doubt. But Punjabis are also saying only Gurumukhi, that is Punjab. No, it doesn't work in the modern world. So, my advice to the poor among the Muslims and Christians is first you fight within your religion for equality along with democratic survival of Indian constitution and the right to vote and the right to education in English medium in the future. See, that will save you from many problems. Once India is speaking in English, India is praying in English for all religious gods. And then if they use local languages, there is no problem for local thing. 50% of inequality is resolved. The remaining 50% is a class question which will remain for longer time. Rich class will become poor, poor will become rich, and abolition of class is anyway a global issue. We will contribute to global knowledge how to abolish class also in a very peaceful democratic manner. That is my vision.
Professor, you are also a political scientist, and yeah, you have also taken a lot of interest in contemporary politics. So some one question in current affairs specifically, how do you broadly see the rise of Modi, and also what was your immediate thoughts on the latest UP elections?
Well, the rise of Modi, if you just Google, that was exactly the title of my article in uh, 2002 after he won the first election. And his background was put out as backward class man. So I said the communists have failed to produce an OBC top leader.
Hmm.
The Congress has not allowed an OBC to emerge
Grow.
and lead the country.
Hmm.
So from BJP, Modi emerged and he is likely to become Prime Minister of India. This I said in 2002 itself. This article was published in Hindu. Now, from that day to present, broadly my thesis, my uh, understanding proved correct that RSS BJP transformed themselves from anti-Mandal to using Mandal agenda for their
Gains.
uh, political agenda along with the Mandir Masjid issue. And Congress was very slow in this. And Congress was not producing a mass leader from non-Gandhi family, non-Nehru family. It was not allowing to emerge a leader. Whereas BJP has a different structure. It changes its presidents every 2 years, and RSS guides from ground level. And then it has an agenda against Muslims. So whoever fights Muslims very seriously, risking one's life, they will become leaders there. And that was the phase from 1992, 2000, uh, 2019, and now. Whoever fought militantly Muslims and Christians, they emerged as leaders in BJP because that was their agenda. Today, uh, Vladimir Zelensky is fighting Putin. He is emerging global leader as global at the age of 44. He is in a war now. So similarly, Modi fought against the Muslim issue which they have as an agenda and emerged as a, and he declared himself as an OBC, which was not acceptable earlier, but with his militancy of anti-Muslim, he became acceptable. Now he captured Delhi with the support of Gujarati industrialists, and the money comes from there. The organization comes from RSS, and they win the elections. So that's where the Congress also lost the ground. Regional parties don't match it because regional parties don't have any matching finances to BJP, even the state government. Because BJP has double income. The tax income and whatever resources they mobilize from their sympathizers and people. And the massive monopoly capital houses, which are basically Banya houses, are financing election in a huge way, even without from the accounts of BJP. From outside they are financing. They are financing the TV channels. They are giving huge salaries to propagandists. You see Times Now, you see uh, uh, CNN 18, you see Republican TV, many Hindi TVs. They are fully financed by the top industrialists to propagate BJP and Modi, Amit Shah ideology. So that help no other party has. Congress has lost ground, which it had earlier before BJP emerged like that. If Narendra Modi were not to come as an OBC with monopoly capital background, he would not have come to this stage. Of course, RSS willingly, unwillingly had to go along with him. We have seen that in the beginning. Now, Congress has no monopoly capital backing, and this Chidambaram, Jayaram, Ramesh, Shashi Tharoor kind of foreign educated intellectuals cannot defeat Modi and Amit Shah. Money and media and mobilization abilities. It's not possible. They are not mass leaders. They were earlier coming to power when Nehru family members were bringing votes with their own resource base, with their own family sacrifice, charisma, and so on. Now that doesn't work. And once Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi are saying we are Brahmins, they lost the ground also. In this election, we have seen that. So those who said we are OBC, those who said they calculated castes, this thing they got votes, at least split castes, and Aam Aadmi Party could win Punjab because uh, they have worked on. See, Kejriwal also is a Bania, you must understand, and he
Yeah.
gets a lot of money from Marwadis. Delhi Marwadis finance only Kejriwal. They are not required for BJP. They have Bombay and Gujarat capital. So Kejriwal is getting now Punjabi Marwadi money and Delhi Marwadi money, and definitely he could spend more money in Punjab. Along with that, his reforms, his Delhi education, school education, and health, and water and electricity had an impact on Punjab because Punjab is more and more Sikhs are interlinked with Delhi.
Yeah.
So Congress was not matching in welfare measures of uh, uh, Kejriwal group, because since they have come as a Aam Aadmi party, they need to focus around that. So these three state governments have now come out with new experiments: Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Delhi government. And Kejriwal is now expanding his base. But I don't know, is he also an individual leadership party? Because that Bhagwan Man, what is his name? Singh.
Bhagwant Man.
Bhagwan Man, he went and touched Kejriwal's feet after
I saw
winning.
that. Yeah.
That was a very bad gesture. That means Kejriwal is becoming an individual leader. And Kejriwal was not saying, no, don't do that.
No, yeah. Don't do that. He
Whereas
was
his deputy, that education minister, when he tried to touch his feet, he said, no, no, he lifted him up. So Kejriwal is a he is likely to emerge as a top Bania leader with his Aam Aadmi thing.
hmm,
And now, what kind of competition between him and Amit Shah will emerge, we will have to see.
yes.
Because I'm told, Amit Shah is a Jain Bania.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's a Bania, right?
He is, yeah, he is total.
Uh, he's a Bania. So if after Modi, Amit Shah is planning for Delhi Prime Ministership, so only Kejriwal will be competitor, and then Congress, unless a radical reform is there, now Congress is losing like this. It was, in fact, I was telling any Congress leader who I could meet uh, that unless you take a strong position on OBCs and caste census, you don't get votes in UP at all. So
Hmm.
they were not bothering about it. They were, see, their advisors like Chidambaram, Jairam Ramesh, Shashi Tharoor, they believe in they believe in caste silence politics.
Don't talk about caste, and caste will eventually go away.
Yeah, they were imported from foreign universities, this and that.
Hmm.
So they don't understand villages, they don't know the Indian history. They read books and write books from books. See, look at the tragedy of Manmohan Singh now. He was 10 years prime minister, did not campaign about what he did to the country at all. Modi campaigns on everyday basis, but he
Yeah.
did not tell people what he did as prime minister.
Yeah.
Nor he did write a book on that. He did not even write anything.
Hmm.
And I don't know how great economist he is and what great books he has written. If he has written a book like Adam Smith, and if it is not available in India, I want to go and search. But he became a great economist, ruler, and prime minister for 10 years with the Gandhi family and without communication skills. So how do you win elections like that?
Yeah.
See, if I can read about Gandhi's greatness, his books I can read. I may disagree with him. I can read about Nehru's greatness, but I can't read anything of Indira Gandhi of our own, except some speeches. Rajiv Gandhi are unknown. I can't read anything of Rahul Gandhi's concrete ideas in a book, nor Manmohan Singh. What kind of so Modi is now every day, every Sunday is telling something is philosophy. Now what is that?
Man ki baat.
Baat. Sunday, every Sunday, Modi has a philosophy. So I think the next we'll have to hear Amit Shah's preachings every Saturday, maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
So, but Congress people, uh, now Jairam Ramesh, when there is no power, he will write books. When there is power, he will be minister. Chidambaram, when there is no power, he will write articles to Indian Express.
Yeah.
Only Indian Express. So then, when there is a power, he will become finance minister and support the same industrialists. So if Modi's say Nirmala Sitharaman, they support Ambani Adani, he will support Vedanta Group because see, he was liar. See, this doesn't work, and all these people are paying. Then why Nirmala Sitharaman became finance minister? Why Jaishankar became foreign minister? Because they have English education, right? And English is needed for these things. And Amit Shah and Modi can manage in Hindi here. So this is the problem. So Congress in this election uh, uh, lost because they have no stand on caste, and unless very radical repositioning by putting a Shudra young leader as the president of the party and project him with whatever media you have. A leader like Sachin Pilot or somebody, or bring in all regional parties into Congress and make one of them like Akhilesh Yadav as a leader, as a prime ministerial candidate, then they will regain. If they think that regional parties should be there, they are our enemies and they are all Shudras, and then BJP will fight. Only Nehru family should lead. It doesn't work. BJP will rule India from Delhi. The Congress ruled in the early years for longer.
Hmm.
So that is only. Uh, see, Aam Aadmi Party is that man-centered party with Marwadi Banya capital support will come in some states here and there, but it can't be a national party.
Hmm.
It can't be a national party, and if after uh, Kejriwal becomes old or something, then there is no party at all. So that's how individual based party Congress emerged because of nationalist ideology and secularism and liberalism and democracy in the beginning. Now
Hmm.
BJP owned nationalism, democracy. Whether they will keep it or not is a different question. Along with that, anti-Muslim, anti-Christian, and anti-minority. Uh, Now they will enter into a contradiction with Hindi imposition and then uh, strong anti regions, states. So that may create a rift in future. But
Hmm.
Congress is entered into a mess now.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you look at BSP as of now?
Now BSP will die as a national party because Mayawati is not a national leader, and they have not produced a team of leaders there. Mayawati did not allow anybody, and nobody ruptured the party structure inside and emerged. It will disappear over a period of time.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is my thinking. The way Mayawati led it to, after Kanshiram, it will disappear. It appears it will disappear. See, unless a party produces nationally communicating leader, it is not a regional party. Like communist parties are disappearing now. You see,
Yeah,
they, uh, in this election there was no uh, presence anywhere. So with Sitaram, who is every day going either to Congress office or some other office or some media office with his friendship. After Sitaram, CPM will totally disappear because they have not allowed any Shudra Dalit leader to emerge.
Hmm.
CPI thrown up Raja, but he is not a very bold leader. He has not shown creative energies overruling the Brahminical communism of old type. So communists are disappearing, like Bahujan Samaj Party also may disappear.
Hmm.
But that does not mean Bahujan ideology will disappear. A lot of groups and lot of educational agendas, lot of new formulas that will keep challenging. Ambedkar will emerge as because normally in the Brahmin tradition, rulers and saints are projected as gods in Brahmin
Yeah.
tradition. Rama is a ruler, Krishna is a ruler, and saints are projected as God. Now Shankara, Adi Shankara, then Ramanuja. Ambedkar will be projected as a god also.
Yeah.
So Vaishyas will project Gandhi also. There will be temples. So we are going to have lot of temples, but Ambedkar will become the biggest because if my idea succeeds that India will become English speaking nation, more Indians will respect Ambedkar than anybody else.
Absolutely.
That is my ultimate vision.
Professor Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, thank you so much for taking out time on this Saturday morning out of your busy schedule to speak with Lights Camera Azadi and me. This was a very, very memorable conversation and very, very intellectually stimulating as well. I will remember this conversation for a very, very long time, and I think people will love this as well when they hear this episode.
Okay, thank you. All the best.